All right, from the start, I'm just letting you know this tree is gonna die. I'm gonna go over some things that I learned and to what I did to fix it. I like to work smarter, not harder. So this is a Haas avocado. I listen to a lot of stuff online and realize there is no right answer. The answer that is right is what worked for you in your area, and also what does that tree actually need. Tropical trees are very specific, especially avocados. They don't necessarily need a mound. They definitely don't want anything in there that's decaying. That's how you get root rot. Root rot is a disease, and it makes all of the roots very black and brown. It's the absence of oxygen that creates that, and putting organic matter in there creates CO2. So you don't want that in there. That's not how it is in the wild. Why do it at home? Knowing what I know now, ultimately it's watering, right? But that also leads to how it's set up, the soil content, if there's anything decaying in there, if it has anything to be able to breathe from. That's why people do them in mounds. Ultimately, it's the same thing, just a different way, and I rather do it the easier way than a harder way, personally. This is definitely crispy leaves. This browning means that it's not getting enough water. Like the leaves, and then once these branches start turning brown, it's not getting water to its limbs. It's kind of, it's dehydrated. Um, and if you were to go out here and look at these every day, you'll notice that the furthest away from the root is what turns brown first, which means it's not getting water. It's not able to circulate that energy and those nutrients all the way to the furthest extremity. So that tells me what I need to fix. It needs more water and oxygen. In Vegas, you want it to be able to hold water and to retain moisture. You don't want it to be any waste. You don't want to be wasteful. And everyone was telling me, including where I bought this from, that you want them to dry out a little bit. I disagree though. Like it doesn't make any sense. Where they come from, it's not like that. And when you grow an avocado from seed, like you could put it straight up in water and it'll grow. Why is that? It's because they have oxygenated water and they can stay in moisture. Like that's how hydroponics work. It's oxygenated water with nutrients. So this should be able to probably grow hydroponically, to be honest, but they get so big. So now I have some new ones. I have some cold hardy and some Haas. Things fast growing trees. As you can see, these roots look really good. And what we're also doing is I made my own soil. I have another video on that. And then I'm using grow bags. Now the other ones, the roots didn't quite look like this when I first got them as well. So these are a healthier plant in general. So that's also a bonus. And this is what it looks like after I planted them. So I made layers with my potting mix in these guys. And realistically, so some of the things I learned or heard was that they're supposed to be in a mound. You don't necessarily need that. They just need air and water, and being able to water enough where I can overwater and not have to worry about root rot. So this is a pretty much level. I got a good 3 or 4 inches of mulch, and it's not summer yet, so I planting in the summer, I just don't agree with it. I think that causes extra stress on the plant. So here we are in spring, or I'm sorry, this is fall, and this is what everything looks like, and we're going to compare it later in another video as to what it looks like in the end. As you can see at the bottom, you want to make sure the graft is above level, and really the mulch, the top most part of it should be just in mulch. I've seen that or learned that avocado trees really they have a lot of roots at the top versus the bottom. You don't want anything decaying around those roots. So essentially everything's going to be fed down through it, and then also the flies. I don't want to be out here when there's flies, so this thing's going to be super beneficial. Fly traps. And I also had to not only listen to people but think about where they come from. These trees, they grow out like they're understory plants. They grow up and then eventually they're in the sun. So they're going to need to be shaded for at least that first year. And then I do the soil in layers. So I have my fast draining soil at the bottom. And then above that, I'll probably have some sort of worm castings. And then I'm going to have like a compost that doesn't exactly get on the roots, but kind of on the outside layer. And then above that, I'm going to have the good 3 inches of mulch. And then I really don't like root rot. I've had 3 of these and they've died from that. So these grow bags, air can move through them. We're going to see how that holds up in the winter, but in the summertime, it should be good. Now things vary based on where you are and where you are in the world, but for here it gets up to 115 degrees. We have random rains, random winds. Those are the things I need to be able to protect about. I want to be able to also think about being able to water via drip irrigation just enough so that it can get what it needs, and then I'm going to be out here every day checking on things and watering it manually, um, probably deeply every other day, or I'm going to have to figure out some sort of schedule exactly, but I don't want my drip irrigation to be the primary source of water, and I definitely want to be out here to check everything daily. Avocados, no one said they're easy, tropicals, so it's going to be work. And based on the amount, so what I did is with my soil, I'll water it, see how long it takes for it to drain out the bottom, and then that'll gauge how much water I'm putting into it and how long they're going to get watered on the drip system. And that's the basic formula. Like, you can't really know. I was always like, how are people watering? How much water do these things really need? And then that sent me down a rabbit hole, and a lot of things died because of that, because you can't really know. Everything's different. The trees are different. You can have two of the same tree, and they can require different needs. So the only thing you're going to be able to do is have a basic idea. I know that these things should be able to be even grown in water, technically, hydroponically. So with that being said, I know that I should be able to water these as much as I need to with the well draining soil. We are in Vegas, so I have to gauge that, right? I don't want to. I want to be able to water, and it comes out the bottom a little bit, and then it stops, and then that means that I probably have to, with a really well draining soil, that means I have to water more frequently versus deeply. I don't want to give it a bunch of water that drains out the bottom, and then what? There's just water out the bottom. When water is coming out the bottom, that means that it's also getting rid of nutrients and the things that I'm putting in it. I want that stuff to stay inside the pot. So I just want to gauge for that water to come out the bottom a little bit, and then I'll probably have to do that multiple times a day. I'm going to wait for the leaves to droop a little bit, and then that'll tell me that I need to water again. So if this takes 5 minutes for water to come out the bottom, then I'm going to have that set, and then come back and look and see when the leaves are drooping, and then have it set for that amount of time again, and then kind of do that on a rinse and repeat. So it's going to be multiple times a day, but it's not going to be overwatering. Make sense? And now here we are in winter. I don't want them to brave the wilds of winter, because realistically in Vegas or in deserts, what you really have to worry about isn't really the heat, it's the wind and the cold. So I'm bringing these inside. They're going to stay in here in the winter, and then I'll bring them back in the spring, and then next year they'll be able to stay outside. They should, double, triple in size. And what I do with this is I water out the bottom. When you have cloth like this, it'll absorb the water, and honestly, that's a really good watering method in general. And then it can create a little bit of humidity when you have the water in there. So this might follow outside, but for inside, keeping these guys in here till February, April or so. And then these really work really well because there's a raised area, so it keeps it not necessarily just sitting in the water. I might even just have it cycle, like get a little pump that'll cycle water in here and keep it oxygenated. But everything looks different, but it looks good, right? I have it in here with some grow lights, and then we're gonna see how this goes once it gets hot. I'm using my old film equipment. I've got some LED bulbs in there on timers, and then I also have it by a window. This actually is a west-facing window. These fixtures are reflective, so they're made for getting light out. And then just some LED bulbs save on electricity. And this is kind of how you want to overwinter these, or you can take them into a garage. This, for me, made more sense. We'll see what happens this year. Let's go.